I'm just lightening up the pressure. And when you're deburring, use light pressure. Switch back and forth often, and you can feel the stone digging into the apex, and you can feel when it's just sliding across the bevel and not actually getting to the apex. So when you're deburring, make sure that you feel that little bit of resistance, and you'll know that you're flipping that burr. Well, that's what I do, and I also check it by hand after each pass to make sure I'm flipping it and it's being removed. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Steel to Stone channel. So today we're going to be testing the Z-Max Mule Team fixed blade. This is Mule Team 29, I believe, and this new steel that they're using is Z-Max PM, which is very similar to a Maxamet style steel, so it's sort of like a mix in between a high-speed steel and carbide, and that's what it was essentially made for, is for when the wear resistance of regular high-speed steel wasn't great enough and the carbide tools were too low in the toughness area. This is sort of like a mix in between, so that you could get better wear resistance and better toughness than those other two. So from what I understand, and Spydercos has been using Maxamet for a few years now in their knives, and started out in Golden, Colorado. Now they're using them in Taiwan as well. So it's cool to see that spreading around throughout the Spyderco world. And now that they're using Z-Max, hopefully we'll begin to see this in some more knives in the future. Some folding knives. That'd be awesome. I'd love to see a PM2 in this, or a Shaman, or anything else really, because I think this is going to be another great steel, just like Maxamet is. So I have already sharpened this. I've already tested the factory edge, and so I'll go ahead and tell you what this got on the factory edge. I got 244 feet on a 1-inch section with the factory edge. So nothing special, but again, you know, factory edges don't always perform that well, so I'm expecting a pretty substantial jump from there. As far as sharpening this goes, I checked this on the Work Sharp guided system. This side's at 16 degrees, this side is at 18 degrees, and I decided to leave it at those angles. One, just to make it faster, and two, because, you know, we know lowering the edge angle on a knife will improve your edge retention in most cases, but I don't know if there's ever been any definitive testing, and you guys can correct me in the comments if there has been, but I don't know if anybody's ever, you know, tested a knife a few times at, say, 15 degrees per side, and then sharpened it at 15 on one side and 18 on the other, and tested it again to see how it does at those two different angles from side to side. It probably has been done, but I've never seen it, so that's another reason I kind of wanted to leave this the way that it was, just to see if, you know, we can still get really good edge retention out of this with the angles being a little bit uneven. So we'll see how it does. And if you saw my sharpening video, the angles were a pretty good bit different at the tip, so I was pretty aggressive with this, trying to sort of simulate a sharpening I did on the very first Maxamet knife that I got, which was a Manix 2, and had a chip in the edge of that knife that I had to remove, and created some large burrs when I was sharpening it, and had the edge just sort of fall apart on me. So I wanted to kind of replicate that with this to see if it would do the same thing, and luckily it didn't. This held up really well on the stones. I did, after I got done with the sharpening, noticed a couple little tiny sort of microchips at the very end of the blade here, but they were so small that the only way I'd noticed them was because the sharpness level was just a slight bit less out here than it was on the rest of the edge. So I ended up cleaning it up on the 240 grit Veneve diamond matrix stone, this one right here, and that's the edge that we'll be testing on. So 240 grit, stropped on 6 micron strop on basswood, this strop right here, and yeah, so still pretty happy with the way it sharpened. Even though it took a couple little minor chips, it wasn't that big of a deal. It took me about 2 or 3 minutes to clean them up and redo the scratch pattern along the edge and strop it. Didn't take long at all. So very happy with the way this sharpened. Really happy with the edge that it took. It's extremely sharp, straight out of the gate. I mean, as you can see, just freaking hair popping sharp. And I've always been impressed with the edge that Maxamet takes, and this seems to be, you know, for all intents and purposes, the same thing in terms of how it sharpens and the edge that it takes, from what I can tell. And so yeah, we'll test the edge retention and see how it does, so you guys can watch that cutting. We'll come back and talk about the results and see how this compares to Maxamet. Uh-oh. Yeah. Woo. Finally. I don't know how many feet that is, but that's a pretty good bit for the first edge. All right. I'm going to stop you guys. Add this up. We'll come back to it. All right. So you guys saw the cutting. So let's talk about the results and what we did here. So first test, as I said, the factory edge, 244 feet. Then I checked the angles on the work sharp, 16 on the show side, 18 on the back side. Sharpened it up. If you guys saw the sharpening video, I did have a couple little minor chips at the tip of the blade. After I sharpened it, I noticed them and went back and fixed them on the Veneve stone. And then I stropped it on 6 micron basswood and did the test. So the first test I got 604 feet, 604.5 feet. And then after that was done, I was really happy with that result, but I wanted to sort of either verify it or see if it would improve. So I went back again and sharpened it on the 240 grit Veneve one more time, stropped on 6 micron again, same exact way, and ended up getting almost exactly the same result, which was pretty crazy, almost unbelievable. But I think what that was I wasn't expecting the edge to fail on this one, so I just cut through that whole piece of cardboard. So this could be potentially up to like 15 feet less than what it was, or what I've got wrote down here. It could have really been like 590 or 595 or 600. But with this one, I knew it was about to fail, or I felt like it was about to fail, and I was checking it every 10 cuts on this one. So I feel like this is a little bit more accurate and could really be potentially a couple feet more than what I got on this one. So nonetheless, verified it. I'm happy with that result. I know that that's exactly what I can get out of this at 16 and 18 degrees per side at 240 grit, stropped on 6 micron. That's what I'm going to get. So happy with the result, happy with the way that it sharpened, and I think that kind of goes to show that, not to say that this couldn't be improved by fixing the angles and lowering it, because obviously, you lower the angles on especially a really hard steel like this, it's probably going to bump up the edge retention a good little bit. So you could definitely do that and improve these numbers, but at the same time, that's still a really good result for not only as steep of an angle as 18 is, but for them not to be matching. I think that just goes to show that what the angle is not that big of a deal, that it's not gonna, even if it's not perfect like this one is, you're still gonna get some pretty good performance out of it, especially with a steel like Maxamet. I'd have to test more knives to see, how much of a difference it makes, and maybe eventually I'll fix this one and do them both at 15 degrees and see how much difference it offers. But I feel like that's a pretty good result. I've seen some other test numbers on Maxamet at like 700 feet or 720 feet or 750 feet. So that's a good little bit more, but I'm pretty sure that those were at 15 degrees per side. And who knows, this is the first test that I've seen on Z-Max. I don't know if it's actually capable of what Maxamet is capable of. I think it is. I think it should be, given its hardness and composition, but I don't know for sure. So let's move this stuff out of the way and strop the edge back, see what kind of edge will come back on this, and yeah, then we'll end the video. So yeah, let's do that. So it's still got one little nick in it, but for just a handful of passes per side, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Comes back shaven sharp. Not as good as it was when it was new, obviously, but still shaven sharp. Let's hit it a few more times. See what happens. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's much better. So roughly 10 passes per side, and got a really great usable edge again off of this. Yeah, that's excellent. Absolutely excellent. So really good job with this Spyderco, and a very good steel in my opinion. I remember back when this stuff first came out, there were people sharpening it, you know, and I think I talked about this in my sharpening video, and it was falling apart, or at least Maxamet, and saying that it was stupid to put this on a knife and that kind of thing. And you know, I got where people were coming from at the time, but now, you know, looking back, hindsight's 2020, but this is absolutely an excellent steel, in my opinion, to put on a knife, because who doesn't want this sort of edge retention out of their EDC blade, something that you can cut that much stuff with and it hold an edge for that long, and then just be able to come right back and hit it on the strop and bring that edge back to very, very sharp all over again with very minimal effort. I think that's fantastic, and you know, who wouldn't want to own that steel? Now, for certain applications, obviously, this might not be the best choice. If you need corrosion resistance, if you need higher toughness, this wouldn't be that. But if you just need a very wear resistant cutting tool, then it doesn't get much better than Maxamet or Z-Max, and I'm pretty happy with this. I think it's pretty excellent all in all, and we'll do some more testing on it. I plan on doing some impact resistance testing with this edge now that the cut tests are done, and you know, cutting some tough things like wood and zip ties and the like, and you know, doing some edge hits up against various hard things to see what happens. And I'm going to try not to cause too much damage to this, because I don't want to sharpen out any major chips, but we'll definitely give it a go and adequately test it to see what it's capable of. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed and found all this useful. Here's the results one more time if you want to see them. And just keep in mind, that's a lot of cutting, but you know, different angles, very coarse grit. This number potentially could be improved a good bit if you wanted to take the time to optimize the edge. And thought I would add this in so you guys could see it real quick. Yesterday was Father's Day. Cooked steaks for Father's Day, and we used this to cut the steak up with, and I ended up leaving the residue on there for probably about an hour before I remembered to clean it off, and this was the result. So just like most tool steels, it'll take a good patina, and if you don't want it to stain, then probably avoid cutting food with it, for one. And if you do cut food with it, immediately clean it off and wipe it down. That way it doesn't stain if you don't want it to. You can clean this up with some Scotch-Brite or sandpaper. Just cover up the logos so you don't start sanding them off if you use sandpaper. But yeah, definitely stains. And there's the edge. You guys can see the my freehand edge close up if you want to see it. The quality of it, what it looks like. That's 240 grit. So now I'm going to have to sharpen it again because she was cutting steak on a ceramic plate.